Nice. Hello, everyone. How are you today? Yes, it's time for Romper Room. This is Daniel, boys and girls, and Daniel's joined us in Romper Room. And what have you got there, Daniel? A photo. Is this you on this side? Let me have a look at this shirt. You've got badges all over you here. What have you got here? The Junction. Oh, and there's Darth Vader. And you're wearing a ring too. What's that? Darth Vader again. I think you must like Star Wars. Do you? Have you been to see, what's the latest one? Return of the Jedi? What did you think of that? Was that good? Yes, I think so too.
That's a 4-year-old me. And at this point, you're probably starting to realise I've always been pretty awkward on camera. We are all time travellers. The human mind is able to take us back to relive traumatic events. It's also capable of creating crippling anxiety about future events that will likely never happen. The trick is to use your mind to time travel back, to relive beautiful moments in intimate detail, but perhaps, even more powerful, is the mind's ability to manifest a glorious vision for your future. I've been gone for a while. Life has been crazy this year. My self-medication got out of control. I made some big mistakes. I've barely spoken to anyone, even my friends, because I've been working on myself. Now it's time to come clean on 2022. Not only the dark, but also the light. The FutureNever for me was always about healing, so this could feel like some kind of therapy. It's not a puff piece, it's not fluffy. It might hurt a bit, but it's real. So, this is for the frogs and the freaks, the dancers and the rainbow chasers, the dissociatives, the modernists, those who have been silenced but chose to talk, those who won't give up on their dreams. Reclaim your art.
So my name is Megan Holiday. I'm from Los Angeles and I work at the world famous K-Rock. You may or may not have heard of this radio station.
It's the world famous K-Rock. I'm Megan Holiday. What's up? It's Megan Holiday here.
It is the world famous K-Rock. I'm Megan Holiday. So I was doing weekends and fill-ins at K-Rock. I was brand new. I was literally driving into K-Rock from a sober living. I was, on a bunk bed and driving to K-Rock working there. And I go on the radio and I was talking about how Daniel and Luke Steele were doing this side project called Dreams, and the only place they were going to perform was at Coachella, and I was super excited about it. And apparently Luke heard me say this on the radio, which the odds of that happening are insane. And so I got a DM from the Dreams Instagram saying, hey, how'd you like to come to the Jim Henson Studios and come listen to the album and meet the guys? So I got to sit there and listen to the album, and then I told the guys, I just said, hey, you should come to the K-Rock Coachella house before you play, and I'll interview you.
So Luke Steele, most people will know you from Empire of the Sun, and Daniel Johns from Silverchair.
And so then I got to, go watch Dreams at Coachella, and then I go backstage and they're like, come into our trailer, and I'm just like, what is happening? Like, how did I get here? And so that was kind of the intro, and then we, Dan and I followed each other on social media, and I would always post these stories and use a Silverchair song in them, and then he would respond and just be like, oh, I hope you're doing well, and all that kinds of stuff, and we would just have a nice back and forth. So then I got a message a little after that, maybe a couple months after that. How would you like to come to Oz and interview Dan and just talk about everything that's happened? We pulled this together within a matter of 2.5 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. It was crazy. The next thing I knew, I'm on a 14-hour flight to Australia by myself to go interview one of my musical heroes.
Hello.
Hello, Daniel. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm doing good.
Great.
So I guess I just want to start by asking you why you decided to do this interview in this way.
I'd prefer to not, but it's the best of all the options, you know. I really enjoy doing interviews that much, but I really don't like doing interviews and not knowing how it's going to be spun. So I guess just doing it at home with you is the best option. I'm not petrified, so don't take offense.
Well, it means a lot to me that you wanted me to come out, and I think it's just really fitting because I'm not gonna judge you because I've done all of the same things that you've done. I'm just not a super public figure. So I have been sober now for 6.5 years. I am a drug addict and alcoholic in recovery. I was, things started out with alcohol when I was about 14. And then it just, I found marijuana and I was smoking weed every day and I was just like, this is it. And then it just grew from there. Pretty much every drug I said I would never touch, I ended up doing, from cocaine to ecstasy, any pills I could get my hands on. And eventually the pills led me to eventually getting into heroin. The real rock bottom for me was not only had my family completely cut me off, but a good friend of mine actually overdosed from fentanyl. And when that happened, it broke my heart. And I just knew that I needed to get sober. Going back to sort of the weeks leading up to the accident that happened, where would you say that you were at mentally?
I was pretty heavily and dramatically unraveling emotionally and mentally, which is to be honest not the first time, but it was definitely the worst time, and it was so gradual that I couldn't see how bad it was. I was so used to feeling bad that I didn't realise how bad I felt. I was just like, oh, it's just happening again. And I was getting dissociation thing a lot, really regularly, where for viewers, it's a thing when you get really intense anxiety and panic, or what became a nervous breakdown. Everything feels out of body. So that I'd experienced that before, but it was happening daily. Every day I felt like I wasn't in my body. I could see what was happening. I could watch myself doing stuff, and it was like a bad trip. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing I can describe it as. It just felt like I was in this weird nightmare. I didn't realise that I was on my way to a complete nervous breakdown.
Former Silverchair frontman Daniel Johns has been spared jail over a drunken crash on the Pacific Highway north of Sydney. The court today hearing of the lifelong battles that led up to that night.
I started really late, compared to everyone I knew, early 20s. And I've never really had that physical addiction. I was always just I enjoyed it, so I did it, and it helped with creativity. It helped me not think about depressing shit. But towards the end, before I had the accident, I was physically addicted, and that was the first time I'd been I had ulcers from my throat down to my stomach. I was in agony. It was fucked because the thing that was the problem was the only thing that helped, even though I knew it was temporary. Probably since I was about 16 or 17, when I had anorexia, it was the same thing. I was like, I can't control how I feel, so I'll focus all of my energy into some compulsion to avoid the actual problem. But the problem's always, like I said, it's always there. But I've always got this way of distracting myself and making another problem, so the catalyst becomes blurry and just focus on this problem which I create. And it more often than not is some form of self-harm, which sounds really emo, but more often than not, it's because it's like misdirected anger. So I get angry at myself and then just go, fuck it, I'll just obliterate myself somehow, some way.
Do you feel like after the anorexia and then dealing with your arthritis, do you feel like that right after that was when things really took off as far as self-medicating?
Yeah, definitely. When this is a really uplifting interview.
But it's the truth.
Yeah, we might as well get this out of the way.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, when I thought that I was dying, when I had arthritis, and was in pain every day and I really thought that was the end. And I remember so many nights in bed not being able to move, regretting that I hadn't had any fun. Not just like all of my life has just been being a rock star in funny years. Just that, but I haven't had any fun. I haven't done anything that everyone does. And I remember when I started to get better and I started feeling healthy, I remember having a moment just going, I'm going to make up for lost time. Mm-hmm. I completely feel like I'm not in any position to be on any soapbox or claiming that the problem is solved. I'm just sitting here right now just on a journey and I don't know where the finish line is.
And I know that you've been struggling with self-forgiveness. You know, when the judge handed out the sentence, he did say that there were no injuries. And I think a misconception can be that since there were no injuries, that means that there's no guilt. But I know that that's just not true.
I like being reckless, but I only like being reckless when I'm hurting myself. Mm-hmm. I don't like that I put other people in a situation because I was like so not in my right frame of mind, and it wasn't just from alcohol. I was legit having a nervous breakdown. I'd never felt like that before. I can't even explain it to anyone who hasn't felt that. I was just not in my body for weeks prior to the accident, and if I'm really honest, probably months, but really, really subtly, so I didn't feel it. But the week or two prior to that accident, I thought I was dying. I thought my brain was melting or I was going to have a heart attack. I didn't know what was happening. It's just full of fear, and I didn't know what was real. I couldn't grasp what reality was.
And I know that after the accident, you self-admitted into rehab, which, you know, obviously was probably a very big decision for you to do that. So what was your frame of mind going into rehab? Do you feel like that accident was you hitting your rock bottom?
I just kept really masking what the real issue was. I kept finding ways to not deal with wherever this panic and depression comes from. I just kept finding a way to not deal with that and deal with something else, create something else to deal with, including with work. Mm-hmm. Like if I was feeling really awful, I'd focus on work, or I'd focus on drinking, or I'd focus on anything that wasn't the actual problem. There's a lot of stuff that just takes a long time to seep in. You know, it's like when you've got a perfectly sealed roof except for one tiny little crack, and then the water gets in, and then before you know it, there's all these veins once it seeps through the membrane. I'm only talking because my house leaks all the time. But once there's an entry point, I've got through that entry point, and I've noticed there's a lot of little veins where the water's seeping through, and I just can't keep patching them up. It's too fucking hard.
So while you were in rehab, your brother called you, told you that the album had gone #1, broken all of these chart records, #1 on the ARIA charts, the first Australian album to go #1 after release week.
Yeah.
So how did you feel? You must have sort of felt
I didn't believe him, really.
Yeah.
I thought he was just trying to keep my spirits. I mean, I was like, at that point, like I said, I thought it was over, and I'd kind of resigned myself to, you know, that I'd worked so hard on that record, and I was already kind of mourning the loss of 7 years of tireless work. So I was kind of like, in case he was just trying to make me feel better, I didn't want to acknowledge it. Yeah. In case when I got out, he was like, no, we got you through though, right?
So sonically, FutureNever is probably your most eclectic album. I just feel like it sounds very current, very now. There are a lot of different kind of, I think, hip-hop and R&B sensibilities and electronic, but still maintaining like that fantastical kind of diorama sound as well. So what are your thoughts just on the making of this album and where your mind was at?
I can find something good in every genre, and I think accidentally that's what happened with FutureNever. I just wanted to explore the good parts of every genre that I like, to varying degrees of success.
Do you have a favorite song on the album?
It changes whatever mood I'm in. It really does. I know everyone says that all the time. The reason that Reclaim was track #1 is because that encapsulated the mindset of the record. I always thought lyrically that set the record up.
My name is Louis Schoorl. I have been working with Daniel for a good 10 years now, on and off on multiple different projects. And we started on a film project together. From there on we went on to do the Qantas project together, which was very orchestral and cinematic. That sort of developed to us working together on a whole bunch of songs for the Talk album. So yeah, I've been with Daniel through the whole spectrum of music over the last 10 years for him, and it's been an amazing journey, and that sort of culminated, is that the word, last year into us working together on FutureNever. Yeah, that journey, it was like a journey of discovery, I think. It was stunning, and it ended up also us reconnecting, which was beautiful, and we ended up with an amazing result, cinematic, bringing back the Silverchair feelings as well within Daniel, and bringing back the drums and the guitar solos and the rock, and it was a fantastic journey. One thing that I found really noticeable in this whole experience with Daniel from Talk versus now FutureNever was that back then it was almost like an anti-Silverchair record. He was trying to get as far away from that whole world as possible. Whereas now coming back, I think 5-6 years later, where he sort of embraced that past and accepted it back into his music as well. And instead of trying to run away from it, he was trying to incorporate it into this new sound, in this whole new record that he was making, being so anti for Talk to being much more warm towards that past, the Silverchair past, on FutureNever. And I think you can hear that throughout the whole album.
With the song Reclaim Your Heart, I know that you asked your bandmates from Silverchair, Ben and Chris, to come and play on the song, and they made the decision not to do that. So why did you want them to come and play on that song, and how did it make you feel when they didn't want to?
Well, I asked them not out of necessity. I asked them because I just wanted to, kind of make it clear that I don't have an issue with them as people. And I really wanted to play with them again for that feeling. But I've never had a problem with playing with other musicians. I just didn't want to play under the banner of Silverchair. I wanted to just get into another vehicle, and then it felt right that I'd established myself as an artist outside of Silverchair to ask them to come back in, and then when they didn't want to, I didn't care. I was just like, I asked you. It's cool. I'll play the drums with spatulas. Like, yeah, it's fucking drums, though. Cool.
We went there. It was an epic night at his house because Daniel apparently had a bit of trouble trying to find a drummer to play on this record. So we just decided that he should do it himself, and that's how it ended up. And we didn't have any drumsticks lying around, and so he literally walked right into the kitchen and came back with 2 spatulas and sat behind the kit and started bashing away. And I recorded it with my iPhone and another mic and just like literally scrambling, trying to capture this whole thing. And it was an amazing experience. And after that, he pulled out the guitar. I don't think I've ever heard an amp as loud as that night. It blew my ears off. And he just started wailing away, and I just hit record, another one. And then eventually it ended up being what it is now. This crazy, epic ending to a beautiful song that just builds up and just explodes in the end. It's a little piece of magic.
While you've been in this recovery process, there was quite a stir online, and Ben made some comments about your genius status that fans often say about you. And he said that he reserves the term genius for Einstein and Mozart, and that without orchestration from other people, that your songs are simple. How does that?
Did he say that?
He said that. How does that make you feel?